So yeah, with the arrival of Godzilla King of the Monsters coming upon us real soon, I decided to review its predecessor, and the film that started the official Monsterverse, Godzilla, directed by Gareth Edwards and starring Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Ken Watanabe, Sally Hopkins, and Bryan Cranston. And of course was the American reboot of the classic giant monster movie franchise, which was started by Tomoyuki Tanaka in 1954. And of course there was an older American remake, which we Godzilla fans don't really tend to talk about. But anyways, let's get straight to talking about Godzilla 14. Now, I understand a lot of people have been rather mixed about this film. Some love it for the monster action it has, and others were pretty disappointed by it, mostly due to the fact that Godzilla was barely in it. Now, if you ask me, personally, I'm more on the positive side of this film. In fact, I love this movie. It's actually one of my favorite reboots of all time. I mean, sure, even though Godzilla is barely in it that much, I still find a lot to appreciate from this movie. Like, for one thing, I honestly didn't think the characters were that bad. A lot of people tend to really harp on the human characters because, yes, there are quite a lot of scenes with the human characters than there are for the monsters for the most part. The only characters I ever really hear people give some positive attention to are Joe Brody, played by Bryan Cranston, and Ashiro Serizawa, played by Ken Watanabe. But everyone else, though most particularly Ford Brody, played by Aaron Johnson, a lot of people consider to be a total nobody and a dull leading character. Now, while I can understand why they may say that, I'm gonna have to put my foot down and say that I actually didn't mind him as a main character. I got invested into his story enough to hope that he gets to where we'd want him and his family to be at the very end. I even like the scene where he helps this one kid who accidentally gets separated from his parents on a train, and when after they survive the Muto attack, he sees the kid reunite with his mom and dad without him knowing, and just being happy to see this kid get back with his folks without even bothering to go up to his folks to ask for a thank you or anything, and just leaving happy to know they got this kid back to his family, was a good way of showing how much of a nice guy he is. I felt genuinely sorry for him when he lost his dad, Joe, and I even felt genuinely happy for him when he was reunited with his family at the end of the movie. I think he's underappreciated. Give him a break. Also, let's talk about the Mutos. Honestly, I thought they were pretty cool. They seemed like a threat that seemed somewhat worthy enough components for Godzilla to take on. And that was something I think was missing from the 1998 remake, that there wasn't a giant monster for him to fight. Sure, a Godzilla movie can work with just him alone. I mean, come on, the very first Godzilla movie was just Godzilla himself and no other monster in sight. But had there been another kaiju for Godzilla to fight in that movie, it probably could have made that movie a bit less as jarring. And that, of course, is something I very much appreciate this movie for doing. Not to mention how unique the film's style is. The way they satirize the movie gives it this feel of somewhat realistic and impacting immersiveness that also adds to whenever a kaiju is attacking or whenever two kaiju are fighting. It gives it a very deep feel that I wish a lot of movies have had. And also, let's get this straight. I honestly did not mind Godzilla's lack of screen time that much. I mean, I get why people were pissed by this. It's a Godzilla movie, and yeah, why would you make a Godzilla movie and give Godzilla such little screen time? In fact, I think the Mutos probably had way much more screen time than Godzilla did. And they're only the rival monsters. And that's another piece of this film's criticism I can very much so understand, but at the same time just kind of disagree with. Because honestly, Godzilla's lack of screen time just gave me even more anticipation for when he was sure we could have much more screen time at the very end in the final battle between him and the Mutos. I mean, come on. The scene where we finally get to see him and the Mutos fight like a bunch of barbarians was easily some of the coolest fighting we've ever seen in a giant monster movie. Oh, and that part where Godzilla fires his trademark atomic breath? Wow. Just wow. Oh yeah, and before anyone asks, yes, in the theater when I first saw this, and when it got to Godzilla killing Femmuto, I too immediately thought to myself, the kiss of death. Because that is exactly what this shot is, and no one can deny it. So yeah, I think Godzilla 2014 is actually a lot better than it gets credit for. I enjoyed the action it had, I loved its style, I found the characters to be okay, and I even liked that the filmmakers actually tried and gave us new monsters to appreciate rather than just reusing older ones. Not that that's a bad thing at all, but it's just nice to see a new take be accomplished with reboots like this. I'm gonna give Godzilla 2014 a 10 out of 10. And I can't wait to see how the sequel handles itself as well, especially seeing as it's already doing one of the many things that a sequel should do. Keep the same style as the first. And I can't wait to see what it accomplishes. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll see you next time, and peace out.